Hello and welcome to another episode of the World Class Real Estate Podcast. My name is Martin. Today I am joined by Ian Macbeth and Sam Hunter. You are very lucky you've got the three of us for the second week in succession. How are we, gents?
I'm very good. Yeah. Well, I'd say I'm very good. I am flagging a little bit at the moment, which I know we're going to talk about. So covering a little bit of burnout. I am good because I got holiday around the corner. But it's been quite a crazy start to the year. So we're going to cover that as well. Sam, you're probably feeling the same with a small child, that you're probably not getting much sleep around.
Yep. We said, boys, we're going to talk about burnout today. And I was like, cool, I'm the poster child.
Not what you want.
Yeah, with 15 minutes to spare before the next meeting, which is at 10 to 6 at night. So yeah, no, let's roll into whatever burnout looks like, because I'm cooked as well.
So Ian, do you want to start with what you just talked about off air when we were making some notes about how you're feeling in the office at the moment as you are coming to a holiday very shortly, and how fast you've been running up to this date?
Yeah, I mean, I want to see ultimately quality agents stay in the industry. So one of the things that I'm really aware of is a lot of people do 10 years in the industry. They get to their early 30s and they exit. And I hate that because I think it's a couple of different reasons. But I do think once you start having kids, estate agency can be quite a difficult industry to stay in because you do burn out. You know, you're working sometimes 6 days a week, late hours, trying to get those appointments in. You feel the pressure of figures, whether it's your own business or someone else's, and you're targeted. And then you're getting home and you're juggling, you know, family life, and you're trying to juggle your fitness life, and mortgage rates have just gone up and Labour are in now, and then it's award submission time, and then, you know, it's August and instruction. There's so many things, right? And I think for me, it's acknowledging the fact that when there is that burnout moment, when you do feel like at 3:30 in the afternoon, you're looking at the clock to go home because you feel wrecked. It's good to acknowledge it, and it's good to have that conversation, and it's good to do something about it. And for me, it's having something in the diary personally to look forward to at least once every sort of 12 or 13 weeks, so that I can go, okay, I am feeling a bit burnt out like I am at the moment, which for me looks like that at 3:30 in the afternoon, a bit tired, getting up a bit groggy in the mornings, but knowing there's a holiday around the corner to reset. And that will kind of means this week I squeeze everything in to get it done so that I can, Joe Rogan talks about earning your sofa at the end of the day, so I can earn my holiday is almost how it feels like to me. And I don't know if you guys ever feel that way, but I think, yeah, our industry is quite a proud, kind of reserved sort of solo lane. I don't think people talk about it. You definitely wouldn't bring it up with your area director in a one-to-one, would you? I feel a bit burnt out this week.
No, that's not a conversation that you're having, is it? And I think sometimes what you said there about knowing the signs that you're looking for, if for you it's looking for the clock at half 3, that shows real self-awareness, because actually I probably experienced a little bit of this earlier this year. I'm going away in 10 days, but I actually feel quite fresh at the moment, but it's not been very long since my last holiday. We went away in May, but now how I'm feeling versus how I felt before that holiday is like chalk and cheese. And sometimes for me personally, I only see that when I look back on how I was feeling and look back on my performance. But I think if you can become aware enough to know the signs and make sure that you have taken things, like you say, put something in the diary. It could just be, you know, it could be something very small, but just to give you that break. If you know the signs and you can put things in the diary when you can try and have a bit more time, then that's a massive way, because when you come back from that holiday, you're going to run much faster, and performance is going to be, you know, more at the level that you are going to deserve those breaks, I would say.
When you say run much faster, sorry, Mark, when you say run much faster, you mean me physically running much faster or just performing better? Because
no, sorry,
I hear run and I'm like, yeah, I'm up for that.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about running in terms of running in the business, and you know, it's probably a bad analogy, but sometimes it's like a treadmill. You've got to like boom, 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 and if you step off that treadmill, sometimes you feel your performance and your results go down. But I mean, working at 100% at optimum capacity, performing well, hitting targets, and making money ultimately.
I don't know if anyone ever works at 100% of their capacity, right? Like to redline all day, every day is a near impossibility. And it's probably a fate worse than burnout if you're doing that. We spoke on the podcast last week about the best of the best doing 6 out of 10. Like if you have consistently 7 out of 10 days, you're going to do pretty well. And you made a point before of real estate is not a family man's game. You said it far more eloquently than that. But I agree with you. I can't remember a time that I burnt out before I had children.
Yep.
And because the reason why is like I never wanted to be anywhere else. And burnout's not necessarily like there's a difference between fatigue and burnout. Like you can be fatigued leaving the gym, but you can still be checked in, you feel good, whatever it might be. Burnout is I don't want to do the work anymore because I want to be somewhere else or I want to be doing something else. And I feel it consistently. I have the same thing. 3:00 every day. I'm like, let's put Daft Punk on. Let's get out of there. And I've learnt just some days, just close the computer and go home, pick your kid up from daycare early, take her for a bushwalk, do whatever, right? So I think you hit the nail on the head that it's difficult to perform at a previous level the moment you have children. Because there's just so many more responsibilities and so many more variables and so many more things to hopefully consider. If you are operating at the same level, potentially, question how you are as a father, I reckon, or a mother. Because if you're doing what you did before you had kids, you're not giving them the time of day, I think, to actually go and get to know them. And it's, for me, the reason why I feel it is burnout comes from a place of guilt. Feeling like it's like I should be home, like it's 6:15 at night, we've got an appointment after this, that'll do well for us professionally, but I could probably be home bathing my kids. And the way I structure my week every week is I do Monday, Tuesday late, and then ideally I'm out of here by 4:00 for the rest of the week, and on Saturdays we don't work after 2:00. Now there's instances where those things change, but largely as a rule that's to not necessarily protect me from burnout, but it stops me feeling guilty, and that's what sends me into that spiral, and that increases my stress levels. That gets me sick faster, it makes me grumpier, makes me a shit husband, a bad businessman, a worse father probably. And that I think is what nags at me the most and what leads me to that feeling of burnout. Like I'm exhausted now because we don't sleep very much, and there's a level of pressure that I welcome with work, but there's also just a lot of work that's got to be done, and a lot of it I don't enjoy and some of it I do. But it's like I could be somewhere else at those certain times. That's what gets to me the most. And I think burnout is a malaise feeling more than a physical fatigue feeling. That makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Can I jump in on that, Sam? Because I think what we talked about here is starting to feel the burnout when you have children. We're all at a very similar age, with kids at a similar age as well. I think it's also really important to acknowledge that I think just because maybe you said you're not performing at the same level when you have children, and maybe that's one of the reasons people leave the industry in, because they feel they can't perform there. What I would say is I think I'm a better estate agent now I've had children, so I don't actually have to run, as I call it, run at 100 mile an hour all day, every day, because actually you've got more empathy, you've got more understanding. I've probably got a lot more in common with a lot of my clients as well. So I think it's really important to acknowledge that actually when you have children, you can just probably maybe work a bit more efficiently and not have to perform. Maybe sometimes people feel, as you said, Sam, feel guilty because you've got the stuff at home as well, but you want to be at the level that you previously were at work, or putting the hours in, or what have you. But actually, I think you can be, equally as successful, most children, but probably by just working smarter.
That's why I think it's sad that in the industry that's the classic. If you look at the attrition rate, that's a very common thing. Is you see that point in time. Female have baby, struggle to get back into their career that they spent a decade building. Male has children, has a bit of a wobble, one bad quarter, 4 bad months in a corporate, and by bad I mean not the high standard they were previously, and all of a sudden they're being moved office, or they've been given a warning and all of a sudden they fall out of love with the industry like that, because their priorities have shifted, like Sam said, because their priorities are now their family, and not a student night on a Thursday and then hitting their figures on a Friday and then repeating it on a Saturday night, and then coming in Monday feeling a bit ropey because they've been all day session on a Sunday because the sun was out. Priorities have changed, and all of a sudden that has to be acknowledged, because it inevitably does mean that burnout is not through drinking and partying at the family side of life. It's just life. I've got my 3, I'm conscious of what Sam said as well about that 10 out of 10. I've got my 3 things that I live my life by, which is health, family, and wealth. That's my trilogy, and everything sits and aligns within those. And I'm very aware that, especially as the modern day man, you can't be 10 out of 10 on one without it impacting another. So it's almost the target is to be 8 out of 10 on all of them. I don't think you can go above 8 out of 10 on all of them. But if I'm 8 out of 10 on all of them, then I think that's me going, yeah, that's success of what kind of my life looks like. And what I often see is people go 10 out of 10 on the career and it impacts their health, or they go 10 out of 10 on their wealth and their fitness, and it impacts their family life. Or that's, I think, important for people to acknowledge, because you mentioned running. You can run a 5K at 180 heart rate, but you can't run a marathon at 180 heart rate. So we're talking about the game of life, not a 5K. So where you are in terms of your energy levels, and how patient and how much longevity you're looking to bring into all of these things, has an impact about the amount of discipline you've got on different energy levels in different subjects, really.
And that's what it is, discipline. Like, there's discipline to do the work, and there's discipline to walk away from it as well. And I genuinely think, like, I'll use I only have myself as a reference point, but if I was to work every evening through the week, right? And I did this when we first moved back to Australia. I worked from 6 p.m. till about 2:30 in the morning when I was still doing UK hours. I didn't bath Charlotte for 9 months, right? Everyone was like, oh, it's cool. You finish at 2, you wake up at bloody 8. No, I was up pretty early in the morning. So my sleep suffered, so my health suffered. My family suffered because I wasn't doing the fun dad stuff, right? I was just kind of grumpy in the morning, making toast, even though I was a bit bleary-eyed. And because of that, probably the wealth suffered a little bit, but everything was worse off, right? Because I wasn't prioritizing those things, and I was operating at like a 4 out of 10 on either. Now, like when we started building the business here, a lot of people only have that time, right? So we speak to most of our clients now after the chaos hours, a bit like to your point, Mark. Like, the vast majority of our clients are young families with a kid similar age to us or older, and they're going through the same, wading through the same chaos every afternoon and early evening that we are. And so there's a spoken, as in a genuine, like, upfront agreement that, like, you will not hear from Chase or I from 4:30 till 7:30 because we're hanging out with our kids. Most of the time we're fighting with them, trying to get them to eat something healthy that isn't 2-minute noodles or plain pasta covered in Parmesan cheese, right? So, but they understand that. And then at 7:30, like, I might be sitting there watching MasterChef or sport or whatever it might be, but if there's a WhatsApp chat between husband and wife, me and Chase, going back and forth for 15 minutes, and we can do that across 4 or 5 clients, the love is still felt. No one's burning out at that. But if we were trying to do appointments every night, because there's an open home every night, right? There's an off-market viewing or whatever it is every single night of the week at 6 o'clock, and it's always run by the assistant, not the main agent, because the assistant doesn't have kids. So it's, how do you prioritize that? How do you balance it as best as you possibly can without feeling that guilt, but also not sacrificing things on it? And you're right, Ian, in that a lot of people leave the corporate world because they just don't have the opportunity to choose what balance looks like to them. They're mandated to be somewhere at 9 o'clock and leave at 5:30, whereas probably frowned upon if they leave at 5:30, even though that's their last contracted work hour, and they've got to leave at 6:45 or 7 to be seen as putting in overs, so they make senior neg and then office manager and whatever the hell comes after that, right? And there's no question about what does efficient look like to you. Whereas you say you work a little bit more efficiently now, right? It's just, you know, the conversations to have with people, you know, when you're at your best, you book your meetings when you're in your best, Mark, and that protects you from that burnout alongside having a regular holiday and all that sort of stuff. So I think coming back to last week's episode about awareness of all the people that connect in a transaction and how you set those expectations and manage them throughout, it's the same with you. Like, I know what trips me up, and so I make sure that I don't feel that guilt any more than is necessary to continue to grow a couple of businesses, right? You know you need holidays in, so you have your light at the end of the 12-week tunnel, and that allows you to operate 8 out of 10. I'm sure you have days where there's days where something drops to a 6 or whatever, but it's not a consistent drop. You get back where you need to be, and it's the same thing for you, Mark. You know what you got to do. And if you're listening to this and you don't have that awareness in place, or those guidelines, don't call them rules because that makes them too, rules snap, right? Guidelines can bend, and you accept that they bend. I sound like my psychologist now, sorry. But if you don't have those in place and all this sounds fucking weird, read a book on it, listen to another podcast that's smarter than the three of us, because it will help for sure. Or you'll end up where it sounds like the three of us have been on more than one occasion.
I asked a question on LinkedIn on Monday at the last week of July, which was, if you could go back and talk to your 18-year-old self, what's one piece of advice that you would give your 18-year-old self? And it erupted a little bit, and a couple of people cleverly said I'd invest in Apple shares, which of course 20 years ago I wish I had. But most of the comments kind of geared somewhere around what they'd learned and personal development. And what you just mentioned there, Sam, I think one of the greatest things that I did, and I don't personally struggle with mental health, but I'm aware in my group that a lot of the agents that join Self-Employed do. So I wanted to become a mental health first aider and went on a 2-day mental health first aid course. It's probably the best piece of personal development I've ever done, going on that course, to see everything in, she said, perspective is someone's reality, you know, to see what else people look at things. And I think I would advise that to anyone, regardless, because it's a really, really good way to actually look at how the mind works and look at being able to reflect and see how someone else maybe is struggling. I think for the managers and the leaders out there, comes back to an episode we had with Megan 18, where she touched on culture. What is the culture in your business? And is it something that you're prepared to look at and say, right, I think that person does need a holiday or does need to take some time? We all know those agents that get to the end of December and go, oh shit, I've got like 20 days holiday to take, you know, and they've probably not been on fire the last quarter because they are burnt out. Sometimes we've got to look at it and be the people that actually say, look, you're on fire at the moment. Go and take a long weekend, book 2 days off. You know, your figures are amazing. Don't burn out. Come back recharged and keep that momentum going. You know, that's why Formula One have a pit stop, because if they don't have a pit stop, they're not going to finish the race. So get in the pit stop, have a reset, get back out there with fresh tyres and go again.
Yeah, that's a very, very, very good analogy. And I just coming back to what you said very quickly, before we wrap in, about your 3 values: health, wealth and family. There are all going to be times, as Sam says, that some of it drops, and there are going to be times where you have to put more into other elements. But to come back to Sam's point, it all comes down to balance and getting the balance right in the long term for me. So hopefully, if anybody is struggling and they're getting to burnout, or they're looking for some, you know, they maybe don't know the signs just yet of what that burnout looks like to them. Hopefully this has been helpful. And as Sam says, go and look into it further. And because it is really important that we are taking breaks, and because we do have quite a stressful job in quite a stressful industry, because of loads of the challenges that we take on, as well as all the sales figures that we have to hit and what have you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great stuff. As you know, we do this because we love our industry. We want to see it improve and get better. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please share it out on social media. Reach out. I'm Mark. He's Ian. He's Sam. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you again next week.